Hello guys, welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here. And if you're new here, hello, welcome. We're excited to have you. My name's Claire. I'm a naturopathic doctor. And on this channel, we really like to talk about how to take a very holistic approach to your health, but really focusing on the foundation. So diet, exercise, sleep, stress. And if you're looking to improve your digestive health, your gut health, and therefore your overall health in 2025, then this video is for you. Guys, I've had so many requests to make a video on digestive health. I'm going to break this video down into two parts. So the first part, I'm just going to go through and talk about the digestive system, just so you guys have a lot of context for when we go into part two. I also think that, it's really important for us to understand how our bodies work. That way, when we are consuming nutrition information, when we're consuming lifestyle information, health information, kind of understand how it all plays in with what's going on in our body. And then that leads me to part two, where I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any specific questions about digestive system, about gut health, about digestive health. So we're going to be going through and answering those questions. Also, if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I will put that somewhere. I've been trying to get into the short form content. I have a really love-hate relationship with short form content. I just find that nutrition, diet, lifestyle, health, it's such a complex topic and it's so hard to make reels that are 30, 60, 90 seconds. But I'm doing it. I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm doing my best. So you guys can go follow me on Instagram. And then that way, next time I do a Q&A or a poll or something like that, you guys can participate. But first off, let's just jump right into part one. And we are just gonna be going over the anatomy and the physiology of the digestive system. So first off, I know that a lot of us say gut health. Of course, the gut microbiome is incredibly important for digestive health and overall health. But a lot of the times I like the term digestive health better because it includes all the other aspects of our digestive system. And like everything in our body, everything's interconnected. And especially when it comes to our digestive system, when we're prioritizing gut health, we actually really want to be prioritizing digestive health. So let's go through the digestive system top to bottom and just talk about what's going on when we eat. So I really say that digestion starts when we see and we smell our food. The sight and smell of food starts to trigger gastric acid secretion, saliva secretion, when your mouth waters when you smell something like a cookie. But anyway, first, food enters our mouth. We have the mechanical breakdown of food when we chew, but we also have saliva release that is going to help start to break down the food, break down carbohydrates. Next, we swallow and food moves into our esophagus, and then it goes down and it goes into our stomach. Now, in between our esophagus and our stomach is something called the lower esophageal sphincter. This is kind of a valve that allows food to go into the stomach, but prevents it from coming back up. And when we have issues with the lower esophageal sphincter or weakness of it, then sometimes we can get things like gastrointestinal reflux, where food and contents from the stomach is actually refluxing back up into our esophagus. Now the food is in our stomach, and our stomach is a very acidic environment. And this acidity is really important. It's there to help break down the food. It's there to help kill bad bacteria. So it's got that antimicrobial effect. But when you think about it, something that's very acidic would be very harsh on the stomach lining. Lucky for us, we have a very nice thick mucosal layer, and this mucosal layer helps to protect our stomach from that acidic environment. But when that mucosal layer is degraded through chronic stress, different environmental factors, medication, infections like H. pylori, then we can start to get more irritation of the gastric lining. And this is when we start to see conditions like gastritis, where we have inflammation and irritation. If we have things like H. pylori that are degrading that mucosal lining and even causing things like ulcers, then we can get a lot more pain and discomfort, especially in that stomach area. Now, ideally, we would have a nice thick mucosal lining. The acidic environment is going to help break down food. It's going to help kill bacteria so that now our food can move into our small intestine. Now, as that contents from our stomach moves into our small intestine, we need a way to neutralize all that acidity. And one of the ways that it does that is by secreting bile. So bile is made in the liver and stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. But this bile not only acts to neutralize that acidic contents that's coming from the stomach, it also has antimicrobial effect. It helps to modulate the gut microbiome. It's involved in insulin signaling. It's involved in thyroid function. So many things that bile does. But anyway, we're back in the small intestine, and now that content is moving through the small intestine. Now, different nutrients are absorbed at different times in the digestive tract. Some are absorbed in the stomach, some in the small intestine, and some in the large intestine. So by the time the food gets gets to our large intestine, it moves through something called the ileocecal valve. This connects the small intestine to the large intestine, and the large intestine is really where the vast majority of our microbiome is. Now, there are a lot of things that are going on in the large intestine, well beyond the scope of this video, but a big thing that I talk about with patients is that so much of our immune system is located within our gut, and especially in the large intestine. And this really makes sense because when you think about where the most common place that we're going to interact with pathogens is, it's actually through our digestive tract, right? Because we're actually taking things from the external world and putting them into our bodies. So it would make sense that a large portion of our immune system is located in the gut. And this is where the connection between gut and inflammation comes in, because I know the term inflammation gets thrown around so much online. And at the end of the day, inflammation is just an immune system reaction. It's modulated by cytokines. And there's a lot of different cells within our large intestine as well. And a lot of these are immune system cells that are constantly sampling the environment, sampling the things that are coming through our digestive system and deciding what they should not make a response to. Food moves through our large intestine, and again, some nutrients are being absorbed here, but this is also where we are forming stool. As stool and fiber moves through the large intestine, more and more water gets absorbed. So it starts out very loose at the beginning, and then by the end, it's very solid. That is a very broad overview of the digestive tract. Obviously, there is so much more to it, but I want to keep it very basic and just give you guys some context for when we move into the questions. So let's just jump right into it, because you guys gave me a lot of really great questions about digestive health, about the gut microbiome. So the first question I got was how to actually fix my gut, how to start. So if you guys didn't know, back when I was studying to be a naturopathic doctor, I was struggling with a lot of health issues, including just horrible gas, bloating, digestive issues. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money or disposable income to spend on supplements or fancy testing. So I'm going to walk you through kind of the process that I took to help heal and fix my gut. Biggest thing that I focused on was nervous system control. Basically, in our body, we have something called the autonomic nervous system, which is the nervous system that controls all the automatic functions in our body. And within that nervous system, we have two sections. We have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And our parasympathetic is our rest and digest. And this is where we have blood flow being shunted to our digestive organs. We have gastric acid secretion. We have enzyme secretion. We have proper motility. We want to make sure that we are in that parasympathetic nervous system when we go to eat. But so many of us are stuck in our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight and flight. And when we are in the sympathetic nervous system, our body isn't really that concerned about digestion. It's not really our top priority. So at that time, we have downregulation of motility, of gastric acid secretion, enzyme secretion. We have blood flow being shunted away from our digestive organs. And if you put food into a digestive tract that is not properly stimulated, it's going to cause more gas, bloating. So the biggest thing that I say is making sure that you are in a calm, relaxed state, maybe taking a few deep breaths. This can help to stimulate the vagus nerve, get us into that rest and digest, making sure that you are eating undistracted, so not watching TV or listening to a podcast when you're eating, and chewing your food really well. Like I said, digestion starts in the mouth, so chewing your food really well is going to help trigger that digestive process. It's going to help break down the food. Eating with other people can be helpful as well. It really helps to pace our eating and make sure that we're not eating too quickly. And then doing things like gentle movement, walks after meals can also help with digestion. So that's where I would start in terms of the nervous system regulation aspects of it. And then also making sure that you are slowly increasing your fiber intake. So when I was really struggling with my gut health, fiber, raw vegetables, salads would really aggravate me. And what I did was start to slowly increase my fiber. When I talk about what feeds a healthy gut microbiome is fiber, polyphenols, and diverse fibers. That is what really helps to support a healthy microbiome. And then also making sure that you're getting enough protein and amino acids. So amino acids are going to be really important for helping to support a healthy gut lining, but amino acids are also needed for enzyme production. So that is really where I would start. There are some times where there's dysbiosis that needs to be addressed. If there's things like leaky gut or SIBO, those may need more attention. I really recommend starting with the nervous system, eating habits, and feeding a healthy microbiome. Okay, the next question was best ways to detoxify the gut using a plant-based diet. Our gut plays a huge role in our natural detoxification. You guys know I'm a really big advocate of supporting our natural detoxification pathways, and in our body, there's a lot of ways that we can naturally detoxify. We have our liver, we have our bowel movements, we have our kidneys and urine, and we have our skin and sweat. Those are all ways that we can naturally detoxify. And the liver and the digestive tract work really well together to help with natural detoxification. So the liver helps to metabolize and convert different toxins, chemicals, hormones, so that they can be packaged into bile, excreted into the digestive tract, and then carried out of the body through our bowel movements. So if you are looking to support natural detoxification on a plant-based diet, of course, we want to be making sure that we're getting lots of fiber. You guys know I advocate for about 30 grams per day, and we want a good mix of soluble and insoluble fiber. And we want to combine that fiber with really good hydration. That's going to help with having those regular bowel movements, ideally 2 to 3 per day. Vegetables like cruciferous vegetables are super high in sulforaphane, so those can be great for helping to support with natural detoxification and liver function. Also, bitter vegetables and bitter herbs are really great for helping to support liver health. Fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut are great because they have both probiotics and prebiotics. In terms of a plant-based diet, I also say that we want to make sure that we're getting enough protein and enough of the specific amino acids that are really important for digestive health. We know that bioavailability of plant-based proteins is a little bit lower, and some of those amino acids are harder to get. So I would just make sure that you're getting adequate amino acids. Okay, so the next question I got was, what exactly happens when you have leaky gut? Can you heal it completely? So leaky gut is also known as intestinal permeability, and this is when the tight junctions, which are the junctions that hold the cells of our digestive tract together, become leaky. They start to let things like food particles, bacteria, chemicals, toxins through, and those leak into our bloodstream. When they do get into the blood, they trigger an immune system response, and that can trigger inflammation. And because they're in the blood, they can lead to systemic symptoms, things like skin changes, eczema, rashes, histamine issues, joint pain, sleep issues, mood changes. Now, in terms of what causes leaky gut, there's a lot of different things that can cause that. Stress can play a role in it. Dysbiosis, which is just an overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria, whether that be in the small intestine, like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or overgrowth in the large intestine. Different toxins and chemicals, medication can impact gut lining health. And leaky gut is possible to repair. Sometimes a longer process, and there's different layers to it. So the first thing that I usually have patients do is remove a lot of those food triggers, just because it's very hard for the gut lining to heal when you constantly have it irritated. And I kind of liken this to if you had a wound on your hand and you kept rubbing sand over it, it would never heal. Where if you rub sand on a healthy hand, it's not going to do very much. The sand is not the problem, but you have to remove it just so that the wound has time to heal. And then while we're removing those trigger foods, we're also looking at addressing any overgrowth or dysbiosis. So if there's SIBO, if there's dysbiosis, if there's SIFO, those are things that we definitely want to address as well. And then we want to start looking at actually repairing the gut lining. So things like L-glutamine, collagen, zinc kerosene, those are all going to be really important for actually helping to rebuild and repair the gut lining. And then we want to start looking at rebuilding a healthy gut microbiome, especially after we've gone in and addressed any sort of SIBO or dysbiosis. And that can be done through selective probiotics. Sometimes if patients can tolerate it, we can go in with fermented foods. A lot of the times though, I see patients, if they have a lot of leaky gut or histamine issues, they're not able to tolerate fermented foods. So again, the timing of that just depends. And then making sure that when we are going in with probiotics, we're also making sure that there's lots and lots of prebiotics to really help feed those beneficial bacteria. Okay, the next question that I got was gut-brain connection and mental health. So there are multiple ways that the gut and the brain are connected. We talked about the vagus nerve, and that is one of our cranial nerves. So it goes from the brain to the gut, but it also goes from the gut to the brain. We also have neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut, specifically GABA and serotonin. So serotonin is a really well-known neurotransmitter. It's involved in mood regulation, but also for peristalsis. And it's sometimes used therapeutically to help with supporting gut motility. Another big way that the gut microbiome and the digestive tract is related to mental health is through inflammation. So I always say that inflammation is kind of like static within the receptors, where it can really impact how neurotransmitters interact with receptors. So if you have a lot of inflammation coming from the gut, that is not only going to impact neurotransmitter synthesis, it's also going to impact receptor activity. And if you're not having neurotransmitters properly bind to receptors, it's going to change the actual signals that the body is getting, especially if we have dysbiosis, again, that overgrowth of bad bacteria, especially gram-negative bacteria. They create something called lipopolysaccharides, and those can really impact both neurotransmitter synthesis and interactions with receptors. And then, of course, we know that chronic stress impacts the gut microbiome. Chronically high cortisol can downregulate the immune system. If we don't have a good, strong immune system, that can lead to more dysbiosis. And then, of course, we also know that stress is going to move us into that sympathetic nervous system. It's going to downregulate digestive function and cause a lot more gas, bloating, digestive issues in general. Okay, and then I got a question about how perimenopause and menopause affects gut health. So we do know that there are changes to the gut microbiome during perimenopause and moving into menopause. Estrogen does impact the gut microbiome, and then in turn, the gut microbiome impacts estrogen metabolism and excretion. So we see that estrogen does have a protective role in supporting diversity of the gut microbiome. So as we see fluctuations in estrogen or an eventual decrease in estrogen, we can see decreases in that diversity. We also know that there can be cognitive changes, mood changes, and inflammatory changes during perimenopause. Those can be related to changes in the gut microbiome as well. When I'm talking about gut health with patients going through perimenopause and menopause, I always talk about how it just amplifies the importance of diet and lifestyle. So making sure that we're getting the 30 grams of fiber per day, making sure that we're getting 30 different plants per week, making sure that we're getting adequate protein. Protein is incredibly important during perimenopause and menopause because we are starting to see those metabolic changes, decrease in skeletal muscle, but also again for supporting a healthy gut lining. And then I got a couple questions about SIBO. SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is when we have an overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria in our small intestine. And again, these can lead to a number of issues, impact nutrient absorption, but again, it can really cause damage to those tight junctions, leading to leaky gut, leading to things getting into the bloodstream, and then we get a lot of those systemic symptoms. Really common symptoms that I see are things like joint pain, brain fog, fatigue, sleep issues, mood changes, skin issues like eczema, histamine issues, rashes, food intolerances. So there's a lot of different things that can be contributed to SIBO. And with SIBO, I really break treatment down into two phases. There is the active treatment phase, and then there's reoccurrent prevention, because we know that reoccurrence of SIBO is actually very common. And a lot of the times it's because people aren't addressing why they got SIBO in the first place. So when I'm actually treating SIBO, most of the time we're going in with antimicrobial herbs to actually address the overgrowth. And then we also want to make sure that we're going in with liver support as we kill off those microbes. Sometimes you can get things like a die-off reaction, which is basically when you are killing off all of the bad bacteria. Liver and the body has to process that. So I usually like to layer in some liver support and usually some secretory IgA or immune system support, just to make sure that we are really supporting the body so it can clear that infection. During this time, we may also do something like a low FODMAP diet, which is just removing some of those fibers that can really feed that bad bacteria and contribute to a lot of the symptoms. This not only helps to starve out the bad bacteria, but it gives the patient a little bit of symptomatic relief. And at the same time, we may be going in with a low FODMAP fiber supplement, just again to help make sure that they are getting enough fiber so we can move everything through the digestive tract. After we've cleared the infection, we're really focusing on supporting the digestive tract so that they don't have a reoccurrence. So remember how we talked about stomach acid being antimicrobial, bile being antimicrobial. So we want to make sure that we're having enough of those. We want to be supporting healthy motility. I feel like I could make a whole video on SIBO, but that is kind of the overview of it. The next question I got was, do I need to take a probiotic if I already have a diet focused on whole foods, pro and prebiotic? I would say no. You guys know I'm a big fan of taking the minimal amount of supplements that you need. I think that most people are way over supplementing. So I would just say focus on probiotics, focus on lots and lots of prebiotics. So about 30 grams of fiber per day, lots of polyphenols, get out into nature. Getting out in nature is a really good way of supporting a good, healthy, diverse microbiome. That's where I would start. I think I'm going to end the video here. There were a few other questions, but I think it's already going to be long enough. If you guys do have any follow-up questions, any other topics that you want me to cover, definitely pop those in the description box below. As always, I hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see more of, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.